million people. Can you imagine the amount of copyrighted stuff going around? They'll say, oh, well, this is copyrighted, this is not copyrighted. Well, almost everything you put on the web and people fetch is copyrighted in some level. Even if your posts are copyrighted, and even if they're creative, even if they are actually licensed so that you can share them, they're probably copyrighted under a certain license. So they are copyrighted materials, I suppose, unless they're public domain. Everything is copyrighted, and there is no way to control that. And they have to cope with the fact that they have to choose a business model around the existing situation with regards to sharing of content digitally. The system we have is completely broken, but nobody wants to fix that, especially not those who have a lot of power. They don't want to fix it in the way it should be fixed, as long as those in authority are hinged upon the funders instead of on the public. They serve those who provide the funding, which isn't the public. The public is just like a side effect or something on the side that suffers the consequences. So yeah, we have campaigns to fight against that, several of them, like the Open Rights Group, for example.
Well, I would hope people pay attention to the copyright saga that keeps rolling on. Certainly, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the future, but let's hope that they make sense, are proportionate, and are actually achievable. It worries me, some of these knee-jerk reactions to what they consider evil file sharing, because of course you can't brand everything with the same brush. So, but moving on, just very quickly to some quick releases. Roy, feel free to butt in if you want to make any sort of comment.
CentOS is released.
Yep, I was just about to say that. You read my mind. I was just about to say CentOS. Yeah, 5.6.
I had a meeting at work recently. We were talking about which operating system to standardize a whole cluster on. And one of the names that came up was CentOS, because we still have some machines running on it. And the person who's I don't want to give away too much about like companies and stuff, but one of the person who's very knowledgeable, he said that there haven't been any major releases or patches from the CentOS project since December 2010. And I wasn't sure if this was true. I haven't actually checked to verify that. But I was concerned because there were some tensions last year and the year before about what the situation is with regards to the people who lead the project. And recently there has been some activity, but it does seem like Scientific Linux, which is another clone of Red Hat, is a bit faster when it comes to putting out the trademarks, branding-free versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Red Hat, Enterprise Linux, which is the most widely used operating system. However, based on statistics, the most widely used proper version that's actually being deployed on server is actually CentOS, with 30% market share among the servers. But of course, that's just a rebrand of Red Hat. Okay, so there you have I'm sorry, I realize I diverged from the main subject, but if people say to you, well, all the servers that run Linux will be like, 90% or 80% Red Hat, they're probably talking about things like revenue. They don't talk about market share. If you talk about market share, many web hosts I know, they will say that they use Red Hat, but actually they're using CentOS. But they'll not tell you that. Because it is essentially the same underneath. And so you will never know how many servers really run Linux. They just make copies of it internally, of the images of a Red Hat clone, and there are lots of them which are being not counted. So CentOS is the most widely used operating system for servers.
Well, the distro that caught my eye, which is one that's going to be getting the OpenBytes treatment, is CTK Arch, and I hope that doesn't stand for anything. My ignorance will show through there. Version 0.7, Arch-based Linux, based on OpenBox, I believe. Yes, OpenBox. So that's going to be one I'm going to be looking at in the next couple of days, and hopefully.
I saw a review of that. I should point out, but this is the first time I see it in DistroWatch, and I've been watching DistroWatch for years, and I think it's maybe just been added to the site.
All right, I'll have a look. So it was one that caught my eye, so I was going to give it the treatment this weekend and give it my views. I've been meaning to get back into looking at multiple distributions just so I can keep the articles up on my site and do comparisons. But yeah, it looks very interesting. It's something a little bit different. I get a bit fed up, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but I get a bit bored with Ubuntu-derived distros because I think there's a certain level of expectation now from an Ubuntu-derived distro that you can expect, and really it's very much of a muchness. I try to go for something a little bit unique, like Puppy Arcade is one of the great distros that I follow quite closely, which is Puppy-based, and it's an emulation distro in a nutshell. So I'm quite interested in that. But that's CTK Arch. I'll be looking at hopefully the next few days. Another couple of releases, Wine version 1.2.3 and VLC 1.1.9 both come out. I don't think they need any introduction whatsoever. I remember what I was going to ask you, Roy. Crossover. Have you had any experience with Crossover at all?
There was a time when they distributed a free version of that for a period of 1 day, I believe.
Well, apparently, I'm led to believe that they do a 30-day free trial, and it's one of the things I've been promising myself I'll give a look to. Apparently, it's you've got I think there's two separate versions, one for application side, one for gaming side. And I think this a 30-day free trial, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think that was according to Linux Format, the off-the-shelf magazine. So I'm going to be giving that a look as well, but I just want to know if you'd had any experience of Crossover. And what...
I think it was 2008. They should go from memory. They had some sort of a propaganda, which was kind of political, controversially so. It had something they were trying to spin it something to do with Bush and oil price and things like that, and trying to say that because of the recession and things like that, they want to give you Crossover for free for a period of 1 day, so you could order the keys to of course you get to download it and you have to like enable. It's a form of like almost DRM, I would say. You had to enable to activate the account, and they would send you the keys for the day, so you'd be able to use Crossover of a certain version. So anyway, I think the numbers of people who downloaded the thing because it was free for a day and took advantage of that was something like maybe 100,000, or a really good number considering the fact not every user of Linux actually reads Linux news and knows what's going on a daily basis. But I didn't really have anything to run on it, so it's like I don't really use Windows software. There was the first time I used Wine in like, I don't know, 8 years was when I had this program that's viewing MRI images. So I had to use that for work, and I could actually use a viewer for Linux. It's just it was comments on the CD along with the cardiac data. It's just like an auto run script that's supposed to like run this program that views the images. So that's the only time I used like a Windows application. And I think that they market themselves mostly with Crossover. Do they have something called Crossover Office, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm just desperately looking through the website. Firstly, I can't see any reference to how long the trial lasts for. Yes, there is a free trial. I'm going in good faith that it's 30 days. Like I said, I believe that came from the Linux Format magazine. So, but I think the Office, what you're referring to, I think isn't there's two that's the Office version is for the application side. Or geared towards applications, and you have the games. I mean, what we'll say from the outset, from just looking at it very briefly, it seems to have a very active community, and it seems there is a very vibrant community in there trying to help each other getting that elusive Windows binary to work. I
hear about it usually in the context of an office environment that's trying to transition towards Linux for all sorts of reasons, and you'll be surprised it's not even to do with cost. Many of them had like a massive virus outbreak and like lost data of information about clients or whatever, but they just say, well, we're never going to use Windows again. So they install Linux, but they still have to like interact with clients, so some of them still have to use Office. And I suppose the negware or the prices that they have to pay to Crossover, I don't really know I think that the company behind Crossover has got some funny names. It used to have a funny name.
So you mean Code Weavers? Sorry, you broke there. Code Weavers, yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is this. There are people that are still sticking with Windows for maybe 1, to products which aren't even Microsoft products. And that's the whole reason for them being tied into a Windows platform. And if software like Crossover or Wine or whatever gives people the opportunity to come over to Linux and a bit of freedom, then the fact that they're running a Windows binary on their Linux system, eventually, hopefully, they would find an alternative within the free and open source software world. But in the meantime,